Hi, I'm a helpful Southern California Honda person, and recently we've been doing random acts of helpfulness, like helping disabled veterans with a big move, replacing stolen softball gear, and paying for a class field trip. And we can help you too with a great deal on a reliable award-winning Honda, like the Accord, a car and driver 10 best winner a record 33 times. Click the dealer locator link to find a dealer near you and go to SoCalHondaDealers.com to suggest a random act of helpfulness for someone you know. Car and Driver, January 2019.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, folks. How are you doing? Let me take a deep breath. It's been busy, as I'm sure it's been for you in this new year. And, for those of you who weren't on some of the past calls, Happy New Year to you. And I hope your new year is going well. And if it's not going well, this podcast might be the podcast for you. And, of course, I'm Danny Tisdale, and you're listening to the Danny Tisdale Show, where we talk to, some of the leaders, legends, and trailblazers that are in the world of Harlem, how they do it, what motivates them, what inspires them, all that good stuff, and, of course, more. Don't forget to connect with us on Twitter at twitter.com/HWMag, on Facebook, at Facebook, Harlem World Magazine, and HW Mag, and, of course, on our website at www, of course, Harlem World Magazine. And wherever you do your social, just put our name in, and you probably are going to find something about us, and, connect with us and send us a comment, like us, love us and share us, and, really connect with us and be a part of, Harlem's world. And before we go any further, this is obviously the reason I love doing the show, is talking to great people who are doing great work in great communities like Harlem, in the world of Harlem. And that is, our guest today is Cicely Minton, who is a one-time a Harlem World Magazine contributor. She's president of Boxing for Life. She is an author of Daddy's Greek Potato Pie and another book that I'm not telling you about yet. She's a lifestyle coach and fitness enthusiast, as an award-winning advocate with the President's Challenge. She was named Advocate of the Month for her work with children. Her philanthropic endeavors include lending her talents to community-based health and nutrition initiatives, serving as a guest panelist for a childhood obesity forum with DC-based Family Foundation. She's hosted a walk and a talk and event with students and local businesses, partnering with the President Council on Physical Fitness and Sports as a 50th anniversary celebration. She is also a wellness council member and in her local district, and a community partner with USDA. One reason we're speaking to her, because she is busy, and we want to know how she dots her I's and crosses her T's. Hello, Cece. How are you doing?
Hello, Daniel. How are you? Happy New Year. We're into the new year already.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. I'm doing good. I'm doing what I'm passionate about, and as I keep using that word, we'll get into one reason why I'm using it, and it's, really good to speak to you. You've got, obviously a lot going on, and you're doing a lot. And I didn't even add the fact that you are a mom too. So you're a busy lady. So let me get right into it, Cece. Who has inspired you to, I'm going to start with your latest new gig, to be a nonprofit president for Boxing for Life, and be a mom, and be a wife, an author, and a writer. I mean, why Boxing for Life president?
So it's Stevenson and Moses Boxing for Life, and we're an organization that was started. It's the vision of Willie and Robin Moses, along with their grandson, who is a 2016 Olympic silver medalist. His name is Shakur Stevenson. So to answer your question, I've been involved in the nonprofit world for at least, probably about 15 years now. I've sat on a number of boards, so I have really developed a skill set, I believe, to lead the organization. But one of the main reasons that I got involved with the organization is because I believe in the mission. And overall, our goal is to offer boxing as a deterrent to gun violence by building character and responsibility for the communities in which our participants live. So the mission had a lot to do with that. The other piece is that I'm into sports and fitness. So working in the boxing world, which it's all new to me, it's still interesting because it is a sport.
Right.
So I would say that is the inspiration, the mission as well as the sports, because I work hard and I play hard, but I always like to have fun. So sports is my thing.
And that's a good combination, too. If you can work hard and play hard and have fun, that's a pretty darn good combination. And so, and I think we connected in 2015, if my memory serves me correct. And, you've always had this passion. I know that between the time we met and I think those first couple of years you had wrote the book, Daddy's Greek Potato Pie. I don't want to go right into that yet, but I'm going to use that idea of food to ask my question, which is, what is really your secret sauce for success? Because it seems that what you touch turns to gold. Even the articles that you wrote, we had tons of people who always clicked on the article, whether it was what you did with Obama's White House or something else. What, at least for our listeners, what is your secret sauce for the success that you've had and that you have?
I would say it's relationships. Relationships in the sense that you don't have to be the CEO of an organization to have attention or to have value. You can actually be the janitor because sometimes the people who are not at the highest level, they can tell you a lot. They can tell you how to get there, because you can read between the lines, if you will, with what they have to offer. So I would say relationships, nurturing those relationships. I am a person who spends some time on social media as well as email, but I do believe in picking up the phone. A lot of people, may not do that as much as
I've heard of
those
a
few years back. Exactly.
I hear you.
So I will give people a phone call, and you kind of stand out that way if you call someone out of the blue just to say hello. It could take you 5 minutes, So I would say that's the saucy secret.
I love that because, it's one of those, it's almost like etiquette. Using the phone is one of those things that seem old, and that's why I was joking saying, what is that? Is that, we forget that it's, of course, we'd love to be face-to-face, but if you can, kind of have a connection and it's not face-to-face because you might be in another state or you might be busy, they might be busy, that phone call instead of a text or instead of an email is really kind of becoming a lost art.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you lose that. Maybe intimacy is not the right word, but in a way it is because hearing someone's voice, it's very different than the email, which you tell how someone's saying something in a text or an email, but you can over the phone. Is that kind of some of what you're talking about, or?
Yes, and you can actually, to me, you can sense how a person feels.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, because if you can sense how a person feels, you know how to respond, meaning you may need to be a little more nurturing, or you need to be a little bit more firm, or you know what I mean, during the conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's it's one of those some might say a throwaway comment or question or answer, but it's I think extremely, extremely important that it doesn't always have to be a text. It always doesn't have to be an email. Especially, maybe especially is the wrong word, but I was going to say especially if it's someone that you haven't spoke to in a long time.
Absolutely. I always make sure. I mean, every day I call someone that I know, even if it's just for 5 minutes. It's only 5 minutes. And that's how you stay connected. I feel, for me, the worst thing in the world is to only call people when you need them. Right. I just
because they connect with that pattern. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, here I know so and so's calling, and obviously these days, when you call, they can see you calling on their phone. It's like, okay, here's an ask coming from this person. I wanted to cycle right into kind of another, this is good New Year stuff. It's really good any time of the year stuff. But people, beginning of the year have these challenges. All throughout the year we have challenges in our lives and our work. And as I always love giving moms props because I don't know any people, any gender that works harder than moms. Where do you find the strength to, for that next challenge that you have, with all the things that you're already doing? Where do you find the strength for that next challenge, that's coming up, or are you, now just running on automatic?
I would say in terms of my new position as president, it's kind of like a culmination of everything I've learned for the past, I won't say how old I am, but for the past number of years, and kind of bringing that all together and sharing that with someone else. And being intentional about it and being thoughtful and putting the pieces together to make sure that I'm giving to the organization everything that I have to give. So the challenge, I guess, is that it's boxing. The majority of my board members are men. So it's a challenge because I think it's a challenge in my mind because they're men, but they're actually great board members. We've had quite a few meetings. I just had a strategic planning meeting a week ago. I've mostly worked with females, women. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. But yeah, the challenge is bringing it all together and make it work. But I'm excited about it. I mean, challenge is definitely the right word.
Yeah,
not
and
obstacle.
It sounds like right. and I you said something early, and I think that's important. And I'm just going to, just mention it again so that it kind of tattoos in my head is being intentional. That this is what be intentional in what you want to happen, and then it will happen. Is that kind of the same philosophy you have? I talked about the book that I think the book Daddy's Greek Potato Pie was a couple of years ago, and the new book is Passionately Focused.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. I'm excited about that, yes.
So tell us a little bit about the book Passionately Focused. Is the title self-explanatory?
There is a subtitle, and it's all about my pulse-pounding journey from the kitchen to the White House. And the reason why I used pulse-pounding is because opportunities are not always standing right in front of you.
Oh.
But once you find that opportunity or you notice it and you take hold of it, can take on a life of its own. So the book talks about me starting out in the kitchen, and the kitchen for me can be completely different than for someone else. But it's kind of like the place where you put your recipe together for life. And then it takes you through, experiences that I've had. Because my background, I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. And so I don't have a business background. My background just started with helping people, which was good for me. Before I did that, I was in the technology industry, which I figured out really quick I was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Time to move.
Very quickly, yes. And it's a series of, I would say stories, if you will, but from those stories, I do share tips and bits of information of what I learned from those experiences. So, for example, I was in partnership with when the Super Bowl came here to New York, New Jersey, I had gotten a contract with with the Super Bowl organization. And I go into, well, how did that happen? I didn't know anything about contracts. I didn't even know what an RFP was. But I had to figure it out.
Right.
It talks about an Olympic Day event that I co-hosted with a gentleman that I played on a project graduation volleyball team. How did I, host an event with someone that I played volleyball with? So these are all of the gems that are all around us, but a lot of times we're looking for the big stuff or the shining light, but no, the opportunities are everywhere. You just have just have to find what works for you.
And find what works for you. Let's leave that thought right there, because I'm going to come right back, because I just want to do a quick station ID and let folks know that they're listening to the Danny Tisdale Show, and it's Big Mouth Danny Tisdale that you're listening to right now, and it's on Harlem World Radio. And we have a special guest, Cicely Minton, who's talking about her journey. And we're talking about your book, Passionately Focused. And did you say, Cicely, when that book comes out, or has it dropped already?
It hasn't dropped. It'll be in the spring. It'll be on my website. I'll be making the announcement from there. I can, give that information, but it'll be in the spring.
That's great. And you know that we're going to post it and put it in front of the eyeballs of our readers and talk about it for our listeners so that they know how to do it and when to do it and all that good stuff. I was thinking about I know what it was. It was what you had mentioned before we went to that quick little break, and that was I'm paraphrasing, because to me I heard you say something about I always am thinking of, I want to grow the business. I want to grow the business and do some outreach and, what is so-and-so doing, over here. I may not know him or her, but I like what they're doing with their business. And I heard in that, before that break we took, something along the lines of, I'm using the word in-reach instead of outreach, but you said something along the lines as to, kind of you were looking around and you saw opportunities, so you reached out to a person that you didn't know, and voila. So is that what it is sometimes, is that you're looking all these other places when there may be opportunities right there in front of you, behind you, next to you, right around where you are?
Absolutely. I mean, there are always opportunities. I say if you talk long enough to a person, it doesn't have to be a long time, but if you sincerely want to have a conversation, you will find that you have something in common with every single person you speak to. And once you find that place of commonality, that's how you build that relationship. It can be you like the same color. It can be, you like the same pie. Or it can be something so simple. A lot of times we look for commonality on such a larger scale, but it doesn't have to be that, because that's how you start to talk to people, if you can find a place to talk. A lot of times people may not open up about big things, but they will open up about smaller things that are, they don't have to share as much. Or, if you're talking about a dog, that's how you create that synergy and that way of nurturing a relationship.
Right. And that is so important, because we know that sometimes if the relationships are not nurtured, it's left hanging, and no one reaches their goal, even if your goal is just to meet a new friend and connect, or the other side of it, that it's a business connection, dare we say. This is a new question that I've been asking, folks that I speak to more and more, and that is, it's almost a double question in a way, because, what would you say to a younger self, Cicely Minton, as you kind of, do what you're doing now and do it at the level you're doing it at. Is there something you would say to a younger, not as experienced Cicely Minton, as she is about to, take on the world, grow her business, become a writer? What would you say to the Cicely Minton, the younger self?
Get out of your own way. Live in the present. The younger Cicely used to worry about what would happen before, what would happen the day of, and what would happen the day after. And it's really wasted energy. So I would definitely say that's definitely one of the things that I would say to a younger me. Also, don't sweat the small stuff. I think that's a quote from, I think there's a book with that title.
Right.
And it's really true that you just don't sweat the small stuff. Use your energy to sweat what needs to, you need to sweat about. But, it takes discipline. It takes practice to learn how to do these things. And I guess the third thing I would say is live passionately. Figure out what your passion is, focus on it, be true to yourself. I mean, that sounds cliche, I'm sure, but it's really true. It's easier to be yourself than to be someone else. It takes less effort to be yourself than to try to be someone else.
No, and you're completely right. Is that it's something that sounds cliche and sounds pretty easy and straightforward, but sometimes that's a challenge when you've been doing all these other things, and then you start looking in the mirror and it's like, well, who am I? I've been trying to do this because so and so said this is what I'm supposed to do. I just read an article by Jeff Bezos, and this is what he said. So it can be challenging trying to, hear your own voice when, here's a success over here and he's speaking, here's a success over here and she's speaking. It's sometimes hard to hear your own inner voice.
Absolutely. But I think that if you start out in the beginning, and that's kind of what happened to me. When I left corporate America, one of the reasons that I left corporate America was because I knew I was in the wrong place. I knew having a relationship with people was I guess, a part of my calling or my purpose. I just wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do with it because it was kind of broad. But one of the things that I knew early on is that I didn't want to wear a suit to work every day. Right. And that sounds like the craziest thing to most people. What do you mean you don't want to wear a suit?
That's right.
I didn't want to wear a suit.
Right, because most people are like, oh, I want to wear a suit. I want to look good, go in every day.
Right.
I'm fly.
But sometimes people are conditioned to believe that.
Right.
We believe that that's a part of what success looks like. And success looks like different things to different people. So that's why that's important, you know, to know yourself. Or even if you don't know yourself, go with what feels good and makes sense.
Those instincts.
Yes, instincts, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So when you're making decisions, Cece, do you bounce the idea off of someone or a family member or a mentor or just someone who, you know what, I'm just, I can ask so and so and I know he or she's just going to be straight. They're not going to decorate it. Do you do that? Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
You knew I was
have
looking for
a
that,
male and a female mentor because I always want to get. Are you hearing me okay? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I am.
I always want to get a male perspective and a female perspective because we as females
they can be very different.
are emotional. Yeah, we're
right.
emotional. So sometimes we look at things through that lens, where men, not that they don't have emotions, but they're not women.
Right.
So I do have a male as well as a female mentor.
That's very interesting and very smart for the very reasons that you mentioned, because I think what you mentioned is true. And the clock is already ticking, and Cece, we're down to the last 3 minutes. Wow.
Wow.
And I wanted to
fun.
see if we could. I know, and this is the kind of conversation I love, and I wanted to see if we could squeeze in real quickly. I thought it was interesting the way that you got the job to be president, because if my memory serves me correct, well, you tell the story, because there's something along the lines of. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The way I actually got the job, I had co-hosted a Olympic Day event in the city of Newark for children. I mean, it wasn't a moneymaker. It was just something that I wanted to do. I learned about it from a friend, and so the long and short, we co-hosted this event together, and our original choice was Stevenson, who is one of the founders of the organization. He's about 20, I think he's 21 or 23 now, so he's young. And we also, in my research, and I'll talk about that more in the book, I ran across a gentleman's name. His name is Wally Moses, and he had his history was just, it was huge, but he is actually the grandfather of the Olympian who's now a professional boxer.
Gotcha.
So the long and short of that is we met that day. I'd never met him before that. We became Facebook friends, and he kept seeing me ever so often post something about Daddy's Greek potato pie. He had no idea I was an author anyway, anything. The long and short, he had an event. It was a small event. I just stopped by. Those are those relationships that you have to nurture.
Right.
Stopped by the event. Never saw him after that day. That first day, he called me one day and he said, "Hey, would you like to join our board?" And I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, what would make you say that? Like, what would make you ask me that? We've met one time." He said, "You're a go-getter like me." And he said, and my wife
Cece, we're down to 20 seconds.
Okay, you have a sweet spirit. So that's how I ran across that opportunity.
And then you just suggested that you would become president, right?
Absolutely. Sometimes you have to step up to the plate. You have to step up to the plate, right?
Right.
You have to go
Cece,
get what
and we're
you
down
want.
to the last 15 seconds, and please give your URL, contact information, so our readers, listeners can contact you and stay in touch with you and the work that you're doing with boxing.
Yes. My website is www.ccminton, that's CC, two C's, MINTON.com. You can find me on Facebook at ccminton.com, as well as on Instagram, ccminton.com, and Twitter, ccminton.com. CCMINTON. Thank you,
for
Danny.
being on the show, Cece. You know, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Hi, I'm a helpful Southern California Honda person, and recently we've been doing random acts of helpfulness, like helping disabled veterans with a big move, replacing stolen softball gear, and paying for a class field trip. And we can help you too with a great deal on a reliable award-winning Honda, like the Accord, a car and driver 10 best winner a record 33 times. Click the dealer locator link to find a dealer near you, and go to SoCalHondaDealers.com to suggest a random act of helpfulness for someone you know. Car and Driver, January 2019. Hi, I'm a helpful Southern California Honda person, and recently we've been doing random acts of helpfulness, like helping disabled veterans with a big move, replacing stolen softball gear, and paying for a class field trip. And we can help you too with a great deal on a reliable award-winning Honda, like the Accord, a car and driver 10 best winner a record 33 times. Click the dealer locator link to find a dealer near you, and go to SoCalHondaDealers.com to suggest a random act of helpfulness for someone you know. Car and Driver, January 2019.